Hello everyone and welcome back to Driver Career for the pre-anti-penultimate round of the 2022 season, here at the Circuit of the Americas, in America. As always, we're going to get things started with the Pirelli Hot Lap Challenge, and we're going with the drifts this time, so let's hope this can go well. I mean, it's relatively meaningless, but you know, it's just tradition at this point that while I ramble on through the intro, we do this in the background, immediately mixing up camera controls with the rewind button there. That's not great. But anyway, in this round, Max Verstappen can actually wrap up the championship with a few rounds to spare. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. All Verstappen really needs to do is score a handful of points. Perez will practically, I think, need to win the race, and hope Verstappen is well down towards the back of the top 10 in order to have a chance at continuing the title fight into the next round. But as we struggle on through the drifting lap, we do actually manage to rack up enough points by the end to get the gold score. So we're all good there, and we can move on into the race weekend itself. In terms of the Teams Championship, obviously that debate is a bit more complicated, but Red Bull have that wrapped up anyway, beyond any reasonable doubt. So after practice then, we get, of course, all the resource points and discounts from the practice programs. Managed to get everything done there. So again, as always, we're not in a great position in terms of the practice programs we're being given, because a lot of the upgrades we have available, and therefore a lot of the things we're getting discounts for durability, and while we do get some useful discounts, there are still some durability ones there, and that's just not the field we're investing in at this point. Of course, we had the R&D reset announced previously as well, so that is something that with this series not continuing into a second season within F1 22, something we don't have to worry about, and hopefully that can give us an advantage later in the season. So we need to fix and upgrade that failed earlier on to the stators, and we're also going to grab an upgrade as well to the tyre wear within the chassis department, and that should be on the car in time for the Brazilian Grand Prix. We'll take a closer look at the championship standings then. Over on the Teams Championship on the right, Red Bull have a commanding lead there, and they will almost certainly get that wrapped up by the end of this round. Between ourselves and McLaren, 6 points in it, so that is an ongoing tussle. And then in the Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen has a 101-point lead over Sergio Perez, with at this point 104 points left in the championship, including fastest laps. So there really is not much room for Verstappen to lose the championship. Perez would need to win and have Verstappen finish outside the top 8, with no fastest lap for Perez to stay in the championship fight. So that is the situation. Heading into qualifying then, it's wet conditions actually, so this is going to be a very tricky session for us. It was wet in practice, so we have some experience in these conditions from earlier in the weekend. It did rain in practice 1, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. It is scheduled to dry up later in the session, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, engines fired up, we're set.
So, with that in mind, we're going to get out straight away though, just in case, because weather, as always, can be unpredictable. So, in case the circuit does get wetter later in the session, we're going straight out at the start, because chances are the driest part of the session will either be right at the start or right at the end. So, we just need to make sure we're on track at both of those times. So out we go then, and we set sail on our flying lap in the wet, and took me a while to get up to speed with this track, and a bit of a swapper on the exit of turn 1. We continue on straight to the end of the lap, kept it pretty safe and steady throughout, and we actually go fastest at the time we set that lap. which is very interesting. But as we look on board now with Lewis Hamilton coming around the final corner after we return to pits, Hamilton is on the soft compound tyres, so the track already dry enough, and Hamilton at the top of the timesheets on those soft compound tyres, as are a bunch of others. So we obviously have to go out on softs and have another crack at qualifying. So we set ourselves up for a lap on the softs at the very end of the session. We should have the absolute best of the conditions now as we go a bit deep into turn 1, so tyres maybe were not quite up to temperature, but heading through this very complex S section should get that sorted pretty quickly. So a little bit wayward in the early part of this. So this is one sequence of corners I've always struggled with, but we slowly get ourselves into a rhythm throughout that section, and we get that last part reasonably okay to get a good exit onto the next straight, and then we have to go late as we dare onto the brakes and try and get a nice smooth exit onto this very long back straight. And after the gloomy conditions earlier in the weekend, we are getting a tiny bit of sunlight. It's still mostly cloud cover, but there's a few rays of sunshine streaking through now as we head through the final corner. And a big swapper on the exit that could cost us some critical lap time. Where are we going to go at the end of our qualifying one lap? It's P15, and we just scraped through into Q2. That almost cost us everything. We would have been starting down the back if we lost any more time with that slide. And in this very tight battle with McLaren, we cannot afford that. Charles Leclerc has been knocked out in Q1, as has George Russell. My goodness. They were caught out by the conditions changing as well. Nicholas Latifi, Alexander Albon, and Esteban Ocon also knocked out in Q1. But my goodness. Two of the heavyweights of the season out in Q1. That is massive. Zhou Guanyu. Awesome result for him. He's not had a lot of pace this season, so great to see Zhou Guanyu into Q2 quite handily there, with the likes of Leclerc and Russell struggling. Zhou Guanyu taking full advantage, although wouldn't have actually needed them to struggle, even if they were at the top. We go P5 in Q2. That was a relatively mundane session, and we proceed into Q3 with a fairly handsome lap time there. And unfortunately Tsunoda gets knocked out in Q2, so it's still a good starting position, and maybe with grid penalties he still might start in the top 10. We'll see what happens, but Kevin Magnussen will start provisionally out of P11, Tsunoda P12, Sebastian Vettel P13, Zhou Guanyu P14, and Lance Stroll at the back of the Q2 knockouts. Valtteri Bottas, good effort as always to get through into Q3 in the Sauber, as well as Mick Schumacher in the Haas at the team's home race. The Haases have not been quick this season, so that is great to see Mick Schumacher getting in and getting involved. So we'll see how that goes throughout the race as well for Mick Schumacher, but then of course in Q3 as well. But we move on then into Q3, bit of a moment as we exit the final corner to start our first flying lap. And because we've only used one set of soft tyres in both of the previous sessions, we do have two to spend, although I chose to actually save one for the race. So we're in our Q3 set of tyres now, and we'll have a fresh set for the race if we so choose to use them. And the middle or first to middle sector, not ideal. We made a mess of the lines. We maintained the speed alright, so the lap time might still be passable, but I don't think we'll be going for pole position with this one, not that we've got the pace for that anyway. My goodness, that sun blinding on the back straight. That is intense, and I have to say, with my big bright TV screen, that genuinely hurt my eyes seeing that sun on the back straight, especially after the doom and gloom of the early part of this qualifying session, at the end of which we finish at P9 with that lap. Not great, but it will do, and we're in amongst it.
Qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves once again of our top three. Verstappen, Hamilton and Lando Norris. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
So Verstappen lines up in the perfect position to take the championship today with a pole here at the Circuit of the Americas. Hamilton and Norris second and third for the Brits, P4 for Carlos Sainz, the lead Ferrari, and then P5 for Perez. So it's not looking good for Sergio today. P6 for Alonso, best of the rest ahead of Ricciardo, Bottas, myself and Mick Schumacher lining up inside the top 10 at Haas's home race. And just quickly before the race, I forgot to properly show off the R&D chart, so we've just got to use this little side one here. As you can see though, we're just in behind Alpine and McLaren, where we have been for a lot of the season.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself, 14 miles southeast of the city centre, has been home to the US Grand Prix since 2012, the latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas, the scientist, Magnussen, Verstappen, Tsunoda, and Daniel Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty. Vettel, Stroll, Nicholas Latifi, and Albon. Ocon, Mick Schumacher. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Charles Leclerc and George Russell. Joe, they've taken a grid penalty, and Carlos Sainz will start from the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today.
Alrighty then, here we are on the grid for the US Grand Prix, and we have strategy to discuss. Hard tyres are essentially useless, we're not going to be touching those. In terms of the other strategies, looks like softs 2 sets of mediums will be the way to go, and we'll space the medium stints evenly, unlike the suggested strategy which always suggests a much longer second stint, which is not the way to go. We'll also be starting the race on brand new softs versus others on potentially worn softs or even mediums in a couple of cases, so that could pay dividends for us as well.
Okay, incredible parking there, nice one. That's going to give you the edge if you can get good launch as the race starts. Keep an eye on the lights, the start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed. Be ready with the clutch.
We've been promoted up into P6 with a few grid penalties, including one for the pole sitter Max Verstappen as the 5 red lights go on. And it's lights out, and away we go for the US Grand Prix. And it's a nice launch for us. It's a great launch as we make the move down the inside immediately of Fernando Alonso, who's on the medium tyres, down the inside of Perez as well, as Norris takes the lead into turn 1 ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second position. Perez slips back through as we get a snap of oversteer at the exit of the first corner. Sergio Perez P3, we file in to 4th position, tailed by Magnussen. In the top 5. What a start from Kevin Magnussen as well in this race. Then it's Fernando Alonso P6, and the rest filing in behind. But that was the perfect start to this race. We could have maybe stolen 3rd if we got a clean exit, but either way we've cleared a lot of the other midfield runners, and aside from Lando Norris, who's leading the race, we're best of the rest outside of the top teams. So it'll be very interesting to see if Norris can hold on to that, but it's been a perfect start for McLaren and a huge blow in the team's championship fight between ourselves and McLaren. Yuki Tsunoda also starting up inside the points as well in this race after the grid penalties, so it'll be very interesting to see how Tsunoda goes throughout this race. Hopefully he can hold on to a top 10 result. But as we continue to work our way through the back section of the circuit, we've got good grip at the moment on our brand new soft tyres. This makes perfect sense, of course, because this is when we'll have the biggest advantage when our tyres are brand new. Thanks, Mark. But yeah, we're keeping things nice and smooth and consistent, and we'll keep the pressure on Perez for as long as we can. But I do think eventually those faster cars will pull away. But who knows, Norris might be able to do us a favour here and hold them up for us. But as you can see on the race director, Fernando Alonso on the medium compound tyre, Tsunoda into 7th position off the start of this one, so that is awesome. But we have to come back to that because Mick Schumacher's engine has gone up in smoke. He took a grid penalty, so didn't start in the top 10. He worked so hard to qualify within, and will not get past lap 2 with those brand new components. That's a huge disappointment, as Kevin Magnussen, the other Haas, is smoking in a different way with the inside tyres locked up into the final corner. That's given Fernando Alonso a sniff towards turn 1, but as Verstappen in the background now on board, making the move around the outside of Tsunoda, who's late on the brakes down the inside, and Yuki Tsunoda gets the move done on Alonso in defence of Verstappen. Tsunoda with the dive bomb of a century, and now making the move down the inside of Magnussen as well. Yuki Tsunoda is on a charge at the moment, as wheel to wheel they go. Fernando Alonso with the watching brief behind. Kevin Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda still wheel to wheel through the final sector, and Yuki Tsunoda's going to get the job done on the exit. What a move by Yuki. Took him a couple of corners to get that one done, but he is on the charge and up into the top 5 in this race now. Here's the onboard with Alonso. Great respect shown between the two of them, and Yuki Tsunoda. Awesome overtake there. That was incredible. Meanwhile, Kevin Magnussen entering pit lane, and a front wing change going on there, so maybe there are some battle scars after that bit of combat. After all, the front left end plate was missing from that car, as we now go on board with Verstappen with a massive move down the inside of Fernando Alonso. My goodness, Alonso, his awareness is amazing at that corner, because that is twice now he's had to scamper out of the way of a car charging down the inside, as Yuki Tsunoda is starting the defense of Max Verstappen, who comes in for an early stop in this race. Tsunoda probably starting on fresher softs can stretch them a little bit longer, but he does respond 2 laps later on lap 11. Verstappen pit on lap 9, so we'll see what the 2-lap undercut does. The Aston Martin's going through there yet to stop, as well as a Williams, and Verstappen, there's actually contact between the pair of them, and Verstappen I think is just going to hold on. Here's the replay, and you can just hear in the background just the smallest amount of contact, so hopefully that hasn't done too much damage. There is a slight chunk missing out of Tsunoda's front wing, so hopefully that doesn't affect his performance too badly. On board with myself now, we head into the pits, and we will get our first stop out of the way.
Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that.
Mediums on the car now, and these will take us well, halfway between now and the end of the race.
Stay clear of the white line on the exit, or receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross onto the track.
For the next 21 laps, I believe. So with that, we come back out of pit lane, still in the same position when we entered. So no change of position there, as Max Verstappen goes for the move on one of the Aston Martins there of Lance Stroll, and Verstappen gets through without too much of a fuss. And you'd expect the same with Sebastian Vettel, although Vettel did give him a bit more of a fight there. And the closest 2 cars in this battle pack are now Ricciardo and Stroll. Ricciardo making that move down the inside, late on the brakes, and straight into the back of Tsunoda, and that destroys the front wing of the McLaren. Here's the onboard with Daniel Ricciardo. He had a great run out of the final corner, got in the slipstream, made the move, but just far too late on the brakes, and plows into the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Thankfully, the contact was with the rear wheel, so hopefully that hasn't done any damage to Tsunoda's rear diffuser, because that was hefty contact, and if Tsunoda sustained any amount of damage to the diffuser, that could be game over as well. But yeah, as you can see, Ricciardo coming into the pits to get a new front wing, because well, there's not much left of the old one, but the new wing goes on, and Ricciardo will head back out into the race. But that's an unscheduled stop there for McLaren. Not great for their team's championship hopes in their fight with us, as we go on board with Tsunoda. A mistake from Verstappen there. Tsunoda briefly with the look around the outside, but couldn't quite get it done. But that was potentially very costly, and as we go on board with Tsunoda, he did ultimately get that move done. Unfortunately, I missed it, and I do actually have to mention at this point I had a game crash at one point, which is why I don't have all the replays from the early part of the race. But Tsunoda somehow or other getting past Max Verstappen and now making the move down the inside of Sebastian Vettel, getting that job done very nicely, putting a car between himself and the Dutchman.
And gap to the car in front is 13.2 seconds.
Oh wow, we are quite away from the lead pack battle.
Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them.
But with Hamilton cycling through the pits, he's gone onto softs.
You only have to stop once now, one stop left. Your pit window will be open in 7 laps time.
We're not pitting for quite a while, so there is no way Hamilton is going to finish the race on soft compound tyres. He's committing to a 3-stop as Fernando Alonso slow on the front left corner. They couldn't get that wheel off, and that's going to be costly for Alpine. Might not have actually cost him a position to any of those cars up the road, but just a little bit of time lost regardless. Here's Sergio Perez coming out of the pits. That's Lewis Hamilton through. So no change of position there. Hamilton was already ahead. So just maybe a bit of time gain there for Hamilton as we continue to push on. Lando Norris making his final stop. And once again, we're going to push on a little bit further to split up the medium tyre stints more evenly. As there's Lewis Hamilton through ahead of Lando Norris. So Hamilton now leads the race. Lando Norris second, so that is a change for position. Hamilton with the undercut. Meanwhile, it's a battle of the pit crews. AlphaTauri versus Alpine, Tsunoda versus Esteban Ocon, and Ocon gets ahead. Tsunoda has to slot in behind, and Alpine winning the pit stop battle there, unfortunately. So AlphaTauri dropping the ball on, I think it's fair to say, Tsunoda's best drive of the season. Although, was that a bit of contact there between Ocon and Leclerc? It was an awkward rejoin for Ocon, and there was a little bit of bump and grind on the apex before Leclerc ultimately held on to the position. We'll go on board with Leclerc and we'll take a listen. Yep, there was definitely contact, just like with Verstappen and Tsunoda earlier on. So that could be costly if there's damage to the front wing for Esteban Ocon. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the race director. You can see Lewis Hamilton definitely has to make another pit stop, as does George Russell, even more so, having only used soft tyres in the race so far. So Yuki Tsunoda currently sits in 10th. That could become, or will become 9th when Russell makes his final stop. Hamilton, I don't know where Hamilton will filter out, but he probably has enough of an advantage to remain in top 4, I believe. But we'll see. It's for Hamilton an absolute sprint to try and make up for lost time with making an extra pit stop. We go back to the live action then, and you can see Lewis Hamilton has caught up to me as we head onto the back straight. So with the fresher tyres, I think it's only a matter of time before Hamilton gets through, although he got an absolutely rubbish exit there. And we are breaking the slipstream, but to be honest, I don't think we even needed to, because Hamilton is nowhere near us as we head into the braking zone. So no threat from Hamilton there. Not sure why his exit was so bad, but after that was as close as he got throughout the next few laps, and we're able to come into the pits still in the race lead. We'll lose it, of course, and we'll probably come out in P4. But yeah, we were able to hold off Hamilton relatively easily. So I don't know what happened with that.
Perfect job on the turn in there, mate. Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that one.
Whether Hamilton just decided to be patient and recharge the battery, or if he genuinely...
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
Used up all the goodness out of the tyres too soon. Maybe just conserving them, who knows. But whatever the case is, we come out of the pits in P4. It will be P3 when Hamilton makes his final stop, probably onto more softs.
Ahead of you. They've just entered the pits. They're on fresh mediums.
Okay, make me a liar straight away. Hamilton coming out of the pits on mediums, and we just get the undercut enough to maintain position ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So We're up into third. Hamilton drops into fourth on fresh mediums, so his tyres aren't actually that much newer than ours. He does have the benefit of driving a Mercedes, of course, but it'll be interesting to see what Hamilton's pace is like. But yeah, there was no chance for Hamilton to get up the inside there. We were able to sweep around and take P3. Back on board with myself then.
Okay, stand by. We see a problem our end and we're looking into it.
Oh, you are kidding. No. Here comes George Russell into pit lane then. And there is no front wing on that car, so George Russell has come a cropper somewhere out on circuit. Unfortunately, again, I don't have replays, but the team will have to get to work and get that fixed to get him back out as soon as possible. But a lot of time down the drain for George Russell.
It looks like we're experiencing an ERS software glitch.
According to the race directory, was noted for a collision with Verstappen, so potentially something between those two, but unfortunately again I wasn't able to find that on the replays, so yeah, that is a shame. We carry on then, and we continue to drive pretty quickly in this race actually. That's the fastest lap of the race, which if we can hold it.
Okay, touch wood, it seems like the fault has resolved itself.
Okay, thank God. That was very short-lived.
You're currently in P3. Perez ahead. Okay, gap to the car ahead is 12.7 seconds. They're on old mediums. That's Hamilton behind, and the gap behind us is 2.9 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Okay, gap to leader, 13.8 seconds. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. Okay, 18 laps to go.
18 to go. I mean, we're going to need to be quite a margin faster than everyone else in front of us to be able to close in that gap, but...
Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 37.7 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. They're in 9th place. Time last lap was a 1:43.4.
The power of fresh tyres is massive, so those extra laps we did in the middle stint to optimize the strategy across the race might pay dividends. It's going to be very interesting, but we've seen it back at the Hungaroring. The power of fresh tyres, even against faster cars, is huge. So as we carry on, we get a bunch of lap traffic all at once. Thankfully, they will do a really good job of obeying blue flags, and we don't really get held up by this lot at all. So that was very handy, and we're able to carry on. But that was a bit of a scary moment as we caught all three of these drivers at the same time, the two Williams cars, along with Zhou Guanyu, who unfortunately has been struggling for pace throughout this race. Latifi leading that battle pack. But anyway, as we carry on, we also catch up to Kevin Magnussen. So what a disastrous day it's been for Haas. One car well out of the points, the other one out of the race on lap 2. So unfortunately not the home race for the American team that they would have wanted, as down the inside of Esteban Ocon goes Yuki Tsunoda, and that was a really nice move there by Yuki, and he continues to fight in this race, and that's a move up into 8th position, so reclaiming that spot that he lost in the pit stop cycle as we start to put the pressure on Sergio Perez. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda is potentially on for his second best result of the season, having finished 7th a few rounds ago, as we are now just having to think a little bit about how we're going to get this job done on the Red Bull. We're going to try and carry some good speed through this never-ending right-hander, and this is one of our strongest parts of the circuit. But it's towards turn 1 where we're going to be able to make the move. To the outside we go. Perez throws the block, but I don't think it's going to be enough. We hang it all the way around, and we get the power down nicely on the exit. We get the job done on Sergio Perez and move ourselves up into 2nd position. Meanwhile, Yuki Tsunoda has got the DRS open on the back straight, and that is a Ferrari in front. Charles Leclerc being caught by Yuki Tsunoda. Now Tsunoda making the move to the inside. Leclerc tried to throw the block a moment too late. Tsunoda's through a little bit deep off the apex there, but he gets it turned nicely and stays ahead. So Yuki Tsunoda up into P7. He is having an awesome race today. will be stealing the headlines, taking the fight to Lando Norris for the race lead, but do not underestimate the performance that Yuki Tsunoda is putting in today. He just passed a car 3 places higher on the R&D chart. That is incredible stuff from Yuki. Just unbelievable. He is just so quick today. Much faster than what we've seen throughout the rest of the season. Once you give him good track position and a good car to fight with, even with a bit of damage, he is flying. We're starting to put the pressure on Lando Norris now though, so that is where we need to be shifting our focus to, because with Daniel Ricciardo
Okay, we've got 4 laps of fuel remaining.
Down and out of the points in this one, we could be in good shape to put ourselves in a very good position in the team's championship versus McLaren if we can get this done. But as things stand, McLaren, it'll be very close between us. I think we'll still hold the advantage thanks to Yuki being in the points, but we can gain a lot more if we get past Lando Norris. So let's see what we can do. We had a moment there which proved very costly for us, so we need to pick our moment and just try and keep things smooth and consistent and not make any mistakes like that, because that's potentially taken away the opportunity for us to go for a move into turn 1. But the form book has absolutely been thrown out the window in this one. I mean, the two teams fighting for race victory now are 4th and 6th on the R&D chart, as Zhou Guanyu is out of the session, so that's a shame, but he was running down at the back anyway. So I'd wager a mechanical failure there for Zhou Guanyu, but unfortunately I never found out, as we are close enough now to... Oh, Valtteri Bottas out of the session as well. Both Saubers out of the race, and Carlos Sainz. That is 3 Ferrari-powered cars out of the race in a short span of time. What is going on?
Caution, caution.
What? Oh, Valtteri Bottas parked on the main straight with a wheel off. There is something else going on here. We'll need to figure out what happened, because... Oh, Carlos Sainz up in smoke. So it was a mechanical failure for Sainz. Critical damage for Valtteri Bottas. And yeah, here is Sainz pulling off to the left-hand side. Maybe did he sweep across the racing line? No, he got a huge hit from behind there. I imagine that must have been Valtteri Bottas. When he came across the racing line, that was okay. So yeah, that was a very strange one. We'll see this on board with Ricciardo. Look at the smoke from Carlos Sainz there. That was intense. Ricciardo did a good job to manage that situation. Here's the onboard with Valtteri Bottas, and oh my goodness, that is a hard hit. And what I think happened is as Sainz started moving across to the right to park it off the right hand side further up the road, Bottas saw him moving across, tried to anticipate that and go past on the left hand side, but Sainz moving across more slowly than maybe what Bottas anticipated, and just drove straight into the back of him. If he stayed on the racing line, he might have been alright. Meanwhile, we've got the run on Lando Norris towards the end of the back straight.
Only got 2 laps of fuel left.
We try to make the move down the outside, but Norris super late on the brakes and holds on as we have a massive snap of oversteer on the exit. And that might be curtains for our chances at winning this race. Lando did a great job on the brake pedal there to hold on, and we did a terrible job on the accelerator pedal and absolutely lost it. So Lando Norris might just have this one under control, but we'll see what we can do. We're still reasonably close, so there might still be a chance if we get DRS on the back straight. Maybe.
Okay, this is your final lap of the race.
Maybe there'll be a chance. And you know what? I think we might just be close enough to get DRS. And it's going to be all about if we can stay close through the first sector. It's a hit and miss section of track for me. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen is closing in on a world championship. He's doing enough at the moment with Sergio Perez down in 3rd position. So it looks like it's going to go Verstappen's way in the Drivers' Championship and Red Bull's way in the Team's Championship. Just 1 lap to go for Max Verstappen between himself and the World Championship. So it could be a very big day for the Dutchman. A 2nd World Championship in a row on the cards. back on board with myself though, because the fight for the race lead is on, and it looks like we're going to be able to get a run after all. But will we be able to get the job done? Lando was super late on the brakes last time into the end of the back straight. We've got a great slipstream with the DRS open towards the hairpin. We go to the left, we go to the right, down the outside we go. As late as we dare on the brakes, we slam the door shut at the apex.
Great manoeuvre, you made it look so easy.
And this time we make sure we get the job done right. And we take the lead with just a sector to go. Here's the replay. We squeeze Lando right up onto the inside over the rumble strips there, but we get away with it, and we get the job done. Move ourselves up into the race lead, and now we just need to bring it home through the final few corners. What a finish this has been. Those fresh tyres have absolutely paid dividends for us. The optimal strategy was the way to go.
We did it!
And it's race victory at the Circuit of the Americas.
Absolutely awesome. Just amazing, mate. Well done.
And once again, just like at the Hungaroring, we've stolen it with some fresh tyres. That's all it took.
And so the celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It might have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level at the very top is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion. They take the checkered flag then here in Austin in what has been another fabulous Grand Prix. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out of the track was: speed. It sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
And it's time now for the podium celebrations, and how well deserved is this one? This is a team all about giving talented young drivers an opportunity to race and to win. AlphaTauri are your winners here today.
So that is race victory for us here at the US Grand Prix. Second place for Lando Norris, with Sergio Perez in third.
Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
Well, my driver of the day has to be Charles Leclerc. He was unstoppable out on track today, weaving through the competition with ease.
And it's another title in the bag for Red Bull after a long and hard-fought season. They've built an astonishing car this year, and the glory they'll be taking back to Milton Keynes is fully deserved. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Alrighty then, unfortunately I don't have a highlights package to show due to the game crashing, so we just have to look at menu screens while I talk about results and standings. So, obviously it was myself ahead of Lando Norris, Sergio Perez P3, a decent result for the Mexican, P4 for Hamilton, the 3-stop, not the way to go, potentially throwing away a race victory with that. P5 for Fernando Alonso, making the most of the opportunities today. P6 for Max Verstappen, enough to secure the championship, but pretty average day aside from that. P7 for Yuki Tsunoda, equaling his best of the season. 8th for George Russell after qualifying dead last, using the suboptimal 3-stop strategy and having to change the front wing throughout the course of the race. That is actually pretty decent for George Russell. 9th for Leclerc, as the best Ferrari could manage, with Ocon making it 2 Alpines in the top 10. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, of course, Max Verstappen has that all wrapped up now. But for us, we are 12 points ahead of Charles Leclerc after that, so moving up into the top 5. So if we can sustain that for the rest of the season, that would be absolutely awesome. Tsunoda remains in P13. In terms of the Teams Championship, of course, again, Red Bull have that one wrapped up. Ferrari and Mercedes, 42 points between them, so there is room for that to change. Just 20 points between ourselves and McLaren for 4th in the standings there. So there is definitely still plenty to play out in terms of the championship battles, but at the top spot, it is all wrapped up after this round. And that is that. One thing I didn't mention actually is that our rivalry currently is with Max Verstappen, so we were up against a very difficult opponent and absolutely slapped him. So there you go. That worked out very well for us, with Verstappen having an average day, and that's put us in a good position to potentially to win that rivalry. So back to HQ we go then to finish things off. And as is tradition, we get back to some bad news with R&D upgrades immediately failing as soon as we return to HQ. We do get 400 resource points though from the team investigating that minor ERS issue that really only lasted about half a lap, so I'd call that an absolute win. It was an ECU upgrade to the fuel efficiency that failed. We can get that fixed and it will be on the car in time for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Here's a little snapshot of the season results, and I mean, this really just does show the absolute chaos and the up and down nature of our season. I mean, right, literally dead center, win, DNF, win, DNF. If that doesn't sum up our season, I don't know what does. As we move on through the timeline then, we do get an upgrade to the wheel rim covers. That is a drag reduction upgrade, so at a track we really do need it next in Mexico, and that will be very useful for us. But other than that, that is all there is to cover for this one, so I'll say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one, and goodbye.